Hello and welcome back to another episode of AZ Update. I'm your host, Anthony Bartolo, joined as always by Sarah Lean. Sarah, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Anthony. How you doing?
Oh, I'm tired. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. If you don't know already, we have this big event coming up, ITOps Talks, all things hybrid, happening on February 2nd. And this week, Sarah, there was a big announcement. And what was that announcement?
We have the man himself, Mark Lasinovich, doing our keynote, which I am super excited about because I'm a mad Mark Lasinovich fan.
I've had the pleasure of sitting in his sessions, both internal sessions and audience-facing sessions, and it's always been exciting in terms of his ideology around cloud adoption. And in this scenario here, specifically on hybrid, so Mark's actually going to be talking about on-premises implementation connecting to cloud and vice versa. And I've not really heard him talk about that before. And so this is going to be brand new subject matter that he's covering. I've been to the sysinternals sessions, and Sarah, I don't know if you've ever seen that lineups. Actually, you have a great story to share about one of your experiences at attending his session.
Yeah, so I was at the last TechEd in Barcelona. I think that was 2014, and I think Mark's session about sysinternals was one of the last ones of the event, and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool." Didn't realize he'd made it at the time because I'm not quite with it then. But I thought I'll go to this session. Let's learn a bit more about sysinternals. I think I was going to ditch the session halfway through, if I'm honest. Found the session really engaging and was having to stand like half out the door, half in the session because my taxi waiting to go back to the airport to go home was waiting on me. So yeah, that was the first time I ever saw Mark speak.
I just remember the lineups, right? Like, so the old TechEd and then Ignite, you'd have the lineups. You literally have to wait an hour before his session to attend, and the lineup would go down the hallway. It was like there was a Boxing Week sale or a Black Friday sale waiting to get into this room. But every time you got in, it was awesome because all his demos were live, always talking about what's next, where Microsoft is going, what we're thinking about. And so what's really intriguing about the session that we'll have on the Tuesday or Wednesday in some parts of the world on the 2nd and 3rd, it's the whole aspect of where Microsoft is going to enable those that require that hybrid implementation, that require that on-premises implementation, and that aspect of how do you take what's best of cloud but still have on-premises because it's a requirement that you have. Again, totally brand new session. He's not delivered this before. So definitely do check it out. And the keynote will be live, also followed by a live Q&A as well, which is awesome. So Mark will also be spending another 30 minutes answering everybody's questions. So do check that out. If you're unable to make the live session, don't fret. There's actually going to be 2 deliveries of the live session, one for the APAC and I believe it's Eastern European, and then one for Western European and North America sessions. So definitely, check out the blog post, aka.ms/ITOps Talks. The one of the blog posts there will actually showcase the times when Mark will be speaking. There's also ICS files available, so you can actually input it into your calendar so that you know when the session's actually going to occur, and make sure you don't miss out.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Shall we get started? Sorry to cut
I'm
you
looking
off.
forward to it.
Yeah, as am I. Sarah, should we get started with the news?
Yes, let's go. Okay,
you're up first.
So, me first. So we're talking about ARM template specs, which is a new product that's in public preview by the team. Now, this one actually solves a problem we're probably all familiar with, right? So how many of us have stored a document or a bit of source code somewhere, and then other people have wanted to have a look at it, maybe contribute to it, couldn't access it because it was in a folder that they didn't have permission to, or someone then copied it and then it became file 1 version 2 or file 2 version 3 and no one knew where it was, or there was multiple copies all through your network and you didn't know which one was the kind of holy grail as such. And I think a lot of people are unfortunately finding that problem with ARM templates. We're all hopefully using ARM templates to deploy our infrastructure and our workloads within Azure. And folk are finding that it's hard to kind of store it and keep the iterations and the version control down properly. So the team have brought out this new product which helps manage that. So you can store your ARM templates in Azure, use Azure RBAC, so role-based access control, to control who can access them, and it helps with that version control. And it's a great place to store it, I think, because you're using these ARM templates to deploy Azure resources, so what better place to store them than in Azure? It's in public preview, so it should be available all to you right now to go and try, although wait till our show is finished before you go and try it, and give it a go. The team are very much looking forward to getting feedback from the community and the customers. So if you love the product, please do tell them. If you hate it, or if there are things that you want to improve, again, please do tell them, because they're hoping to take all that feedback and put it into the generally available version. There should be links for the blog post, which contains ways to get in touch with the product team. There's even an email address, I believe, at the bottom of the blog post as well. So please do interact with the team and give this a try. Sounds pretty cool. What do you think, Anthony?
No, it's awesome. You're in essence, you're introducing governance into ARM templates to ensure that there's source control over what resources are actually being deployed based on your requirements at your organization, right? All the information available for contacting the team, Engel, Perez, and team is available on our blog. So if you go down, like we usually do, we have all the news items that we talk about during our episode. You go and click on the link. It'll bring you to the blog post, and all the contact information is there. Very important. Please do go and try it, and then provide your feedback in terms of what you'd like to see, what needs to be changed, or if nothing needs to be changed, how you feel you and your organization are going to be using it. We also share this information out on social, so definitely on Twitter and Instagram, and on Reddit and LinkedIn, and definitely have the conversation out there as well. We're watching all feeds from this aspect, and we're funneling that information to Engel, Perez, and team when valid feedback comes in. Come in with something that will help further the products or the solutions that we're talking about and we're reporting on to help you make sure that you achieve what you're trying to achieve with the services we make available. Shall we continue on with the news?
Yes. What have you got to tell us? That was
a mouthful. Sorry?
What have you got this week?
This week. So updates to multi-factor authentication, specifically to hybrid. So I definitely wanted to bring light to this because we're having our event on the 2nd. This pertains to the change that was made to multi-factor authentication with the phone authentication number. So if you don't have the application loaded on your phone, that provides you the digits or the code to go into to prove who you are for your identity. There is the ability for the solution to call you back. This update actually occurred in November 2020 for those that are cloud first or cloud native. Now they've extended this functionality to a hybrid scenario. This functionality has always been there, but now the ability for selection of a specific number as opposed to a public number is the new change, which was introduced in November and is now brought to hybrid as well. So if you have your hybrid implementation and you're using Azure AD Sync, you're now able to select the specific phone number that's required either through the new GUI interface that's here, through Microsoft Graph, and through the identity piece, can now showcase these are the numbers that you're using for the authentication, for multi-factor authentication, as opposed to just having the one general public number that it would call back. So this is great for those organizations or those individuals that have multiple numbers, and you can specifically assign which number, but still capture all of the records of all the numbers for that individual to be contacted with. Sarah, multi-factor authentication, if not being used today, why not? Like the whole aspect of us working from home, really ramped up the need for us to prove out we are who we say we are when we're grabbing that information. Do you think organizations are still not using multi-factor authentication, even though it's so easy to add now?
I think so. I think it's one of those things that people think is going to be hard for their users to adopt and is going to generate tons of support tickets because people can't find the right code, or it doesn't work, or they can't access it, or they've lost the phone or whatever. But I think it's one of those things that if done right, the user adoption piece is really easy. I've done some user adoptions myself. It can be really easy if you educate people why you're doing this and how to use them and give them the support. And yeah, it's really easy to implement MFA. I think it's the user adoption piece that people struggle with. So that's the bit that the T's need to learn, and then it's dead easy to roll out.
And the thing too is it's no longer cost prohibitive, because before you would have to buy this token and you have to have this full service, and that whole aspect of that requirement is now gone, and people lose their tokens, right?
Yep.
And you had this whole issue. Nobody wants to lose their phone, or nobody usually loses their phone. Sometimes it happens, but having the app or having a ringback number that can be switched on in Azure Active Directory, and now the ability to specifically assign which number is going to be used for the call out, that's huge, right? And it's something where there's no additional cost. It's literally the enablement of a feature to have this capability. And with everybody working from home and the sensitive information that's being passed through multiple work sites around the world, more important than ever to ensure that your identity is being protected and the information that you have access to, others don't. So, if you haven't turned it on already, do turn it on. We have all the news on the update that's made available on the blog post as well, so do check that out. Sarah, you're up next.
Yes, so the Microsoft's Azure Storage team have released a new feature about how you can allow or deny access to your storage accounts. So we're probably all familiar with being able to limit what accesses or storage accounts and other resources in Azure using virtual networks and maybe IP address ruling. But that's not always the case. We can't usually use that with some services. So this new feature allows you to define the resource types that can actually access your storage. So on screen here in my Azure Storage account under the networking blade, you can see I've got a bit where I can say what is allowed in or not allowed in terms of the resource type. And I've got some of the options here. I've got like the Azure Migrate projects, and then I can click that and say if I want things that are completely in my Azure tenant to be able to access it, or specify a specific instance of that resource type. So it's another way of securing and kind of keeping your data where you want it and allowing what you want access to and what you don't want to allow access to. This is in public preview. So it should be all available for you to go and have a try. Please do, again, with any public preview products we have a go with it, try it out, give us some feedback, good and bad, and we can take it from there. But again, it's another awesome way to be able to secure your environment in a way that you want to be able to do it as well.
Sarah, are you seeing an uplift of public preview offerings of services as of late? Like, I've seen a lot more than I usually do. And it's been awesome, the fact that Microsoft is enabling these public previews for feedback.
Yep.
Why do you think that is? Did that occur because of the pandemic? Is that something where, Microsoft having everybody that's at home on their terminals accessing information, running through services, do you think that had something to do with the whole opening of the ability for public previews?
Yeah, I think that as well. More people have more time nowadays to actually try these out, test them out, evaluate them within their, the development environments, and test them out and try and give that feedback. So I think Microsoft are just taking advantage of everybody being at home and having that extra time to try out these features and help us develop the features for everybody that wants them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like playing with all these kind of features and finding out what they do and giving feedback. So it's good fun.
Yeah, and it's like you said, everybody's, in essence, you have a captive audience, and what a great way for everybody to try out new features before they go, before they become generally available, and provide your feedback. And that's the most important thing I want to stress is take the opportunity to provide your feedback in terms of the services that Microsoft is building to ensure, Microsoft is on the right path in terms of enabling your day-to-day activities on what you're trying to accomplish. Continuing on with the news, on the same vein of network security, there's been an update to the classic IP filter for IoT Hub. I know, Sarah, not a big IoT person. I still call out IoT as being the next on-premises implementation that IT professionals have to govern over. The existing classic IP filter, when connecting devices, immediately connects all IP addresses associated with the devices up to Azure, up to IoT Hub. The new classic IP filter allows you to select and choose which IPs you want to connect. So if you're going to create a on-premises gateway that the devices would connect to, you don't have to funnel up all the IP addresses reducing your attack vector, in essence, of what people are trying to do to gain access to your information. Now, this does mean that if you're using the current IoT Hub Classic IP filter, you will need to upgrade or change to the new Classic IP filter before February 1st, 2022. So you still have some time. This is not an overnight change, but wanted to bring this to everybody's attention now because it was just talked about. We've shared in the blog post a full link to the steps. The steps are here. It is very simple. It's literally a, you're gonna go through. It's gonna notify you that you have the old Classic IP filter, and do you wish to update or do you wish to preview the upgrade? And then you put forth the upgrade, and it changes the filter for you. So a lot of the guesswork has been eliminated. There is the ability to go through, like I said, and single out which IP addresses are going to be made available for connection back to the IoT Hub, which ones will be filtered. You can have the block rule implemented as well, so that these IPs are not coming through your hub. You're securing, in essence, your entry gateway into IoT Hub for digestion of information coming from the devices. Sarah, your thoughts?
Yep, I think it's very good to see some of these features as well built into it, Anthony. Because as much as I don't love IoT, the very first project I ever did, and I don't know if I've told you this story, was in IoT. And some of these features you're talking about, I never thought about, never considered. Just because didn't know anything about IoT or maybe the cloud. So it's good to see these features coming on board and giving us the flexibility and giving us advance notice as well to this, because you said it was 2022. This change will happen. So lots of time to deal with it. No excuses for not dealing with it and getting caught out. So yeah, awesome to see.
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of the IoT offering. Speaking at CES a couple of years back, the whole thing around IoT at that time was just get the adoption going. Don't worry about security. Just get all these devices connected out there. Information has become the new currency. And so people want to gain access to your information, and they're seeing the IoT devices as the easiest way to get into your organization, inject some code into that device and gain access. There's been a plethora of ways to secure your devices themselves directly from even the chipset on the device itself. That it can be engineered to have its own certificate capability for authentication to Azure AD, as an example. So it dissuades information from being extracted from an organization. Making the solution more simple in terms of security and making it a no-brainer, like, when I connect this device, what's the security aspect that's going to be included in this? It's so important to ensure that the growth of IoT from a usage standpoint continues on, and that IT professionals can still provide that aspect of governance and security on these devices when they're connected to the network. I remember, devices literally being connected directly to the LAN. There's the RJ45 jack in the wall, and without even calling IT, these individuals are connecting these sensors that make the lamps turn different colors, right? And it's like the simplest things, and then you hear these siphoning attacks that are attacking that lamp that's got an insecure dashboard on the internet, that the browser is being attacked to gain access to your information. That this device is connected directly to your LAN that gains access to your full-on SQL server, as example, that's on premises for all your information. There's a ton of horror stories. I actually have a session coming up with the Defender team that actually has built out a specific solution for IoT, and we'll be sharing more information when that comes out. It is something that IT professionals have to take in consideration, because these devices touch the network regardless if they're remote or they're on premises. And so the fact that security solutions are being made available for IT professionals to allow to manage these devices is a huge deal.
Yep, awesome.
Let's quickly say hi to those in the chat room. Thank you, Andrew McCollum. He's talking about a couple of projects that he's worked with on IoT online. We have Paul Jensen here. I saw producer Steve. Jared Chalkley is here. Stephen Inns is here as well. Who else we got in the chat room? We have Matthias. We have Mustafa. Hello, Mustafa. I know Mustafa has just joined the Discord server for our upcoming ITOps Talks, and we'll talk about that later too, and how you can participate in a live Q&A for all the sessions that we'll have out there. And of course, producer Pierre. Producer Pierre, you're supposed to be producing the show. He's in the chat room chatting away, which is funny. Let's talk about events really quickly. Mm-hmm. As mentioned, we have this event coming up on February the 2nd, February the 3rd, in some parts of the world. ITOps Talks, all things hybrid. I wanted to give us a chance to talk about the sessions that we'll be specifically sharing at the event. So Sarah, I'll let you go first and just give a quick overview of what we're doing.
Yeah, so my session is talking about Windows Virtual Desktop, and we're talking about how that's been used over the pandemic to help people with remote working, how it's helping just with general adoption of being able to access a desktop that is consistent. And we're also talking about the roadmap features, so some of the features that people have been asking for, how they can benefit them, how you can access them, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, it was good fun doing that session. What about your sessions, Anthony?
So I had the pleasure to sit down with Sarah Young, and we went through a lot, so much so that I had to split up the session into 2 sessions because we covered everything on Azure Security Center and all the aspects and implementations that you need to know, tips and tricks for specifically a hybrid network. And this was, very important. It wasn't a cloud first scenario. It was if you have your infrastructure on premises, how are you taking advantage of Azure Security Center to manage your on-premises implementation and not introduce latency from a perspective of your information being monitored or your services being monitored on premises? And it was a very interesting walkthrough because she had gone through all the demonstrations live and even doing the detection of attacks and how the graphical representation is going to show where to pinpoint the aspects of the originating attack, how that spread, and what needs to be addressed. Then we walked into the second hour, which was the whole Azure Sentinel piece. And so the whole SIEM offering of utilizing intelligence and understanding of how the attacks are occurring and what to do using logic apps to address those attacks, whether it be reporting, whether it be self-remediation, whether it be disabling of services. And what I loved about her delivery was, like I said, in both instances, there weren't any slides. It was a live representation of both Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel that she actually walks us through those scenarios directly in Portal. So, definitely excited to hear the feedback in terms of everything that's going on. I know producer Pierre wants to share really quickly too the sessions that he has. He has a multitude of sessions on the All Things Hybrid event. Pierre, take it away. Pierre, you're muted, my friend.
Is it 2021 or 2020 still?
2021. I think.
Yeah, so I had 4 sessions. I had but the 2 that I want to talk about is number 1 is Ops 117, I believe, which is PowerShell deep dive with Joey Aiello and Jason Helmick. This was really fun. I ended up having to do a lot of editing to bring it down below an hour and a half. It was like one of those things where we're talking, Jason showing me stuff, and all of a sudden, like, look at the clock, or like the little live icon at the top of the screen that says 1 hour and 53 minutes, and I'm like, oh crap! So that's really cool. Where that session actually starts with like really 200 level, because it's Joey kind of goes through an overview of like for people that are just jumping in, what's PowerShell, differences between Windows PowerShell Core, the .NET framework, how it all kind of fits in, and then he kind of goes from there fairly quickly into some fairly new functionality that are very, very intriguing, and I'm not going to say any more, so go watch it. And the second one is a completely different type of session, which is Ops 115, deep dive on log analytics workspace design. Because this one really didn't have any demos. I talked to Mir about doing the demos, and he's like, demo is like right-click, create workspace. It's not very engaging. But the discussion on why doing a design in a specific way, like a centralized versus hub and spoke, and how you maintain access, the discussion was very, very intriguing, especially for myself, because I've been doing a lot of log analytics query and design, and I've been talking with some field folks at Microsoft, like Azure architects, and so that conversation was very engaging that way. So check it out. Ops 117 and Ops 115. And of course, you can actually go and participate in the discussion.
Now, the Discord server, the rooms specifically to the sessions are already available, right? So that people can go in already and start, asking questions, request items that they would want to see. They might not have them out in the video in terms of everything that you want to see, but remember, there's also going to be a live Q&A made available after the videos have launched. And so capturing your questions now ensures that your questions will be answered by the speaker
or his or her team.
His or her team, correct. In regards to what was presented or what additional items wanted to be you would like to see covered. So definitely, go into the Discord server now, register yourself. I think in the last 3 days we've seen a growth of 100 people, which is phenomenal. Start having the conversations now in regards to what your challenges are in implementation of the specific technology or the specific room that you've gone into. There's also the general room that you can go into as well and ask other questions that you may have in terms of your hybrid implementation. Go there and start the conversation now. Don't wait until the second. Be early with your questions and start up the conversation. And definitely when the second comes around and we have Mark Rozinovich's keynote, it'll be awesome to have your input and your take on everything as well. But don't wait until the second. Start having the conversations today.
Cool. Last
but not least, as we usually cover on the show itself, the Microsoft Learn module of the week. This one is a big one. This is brand new, newly announced, newly released. The Windows Server Deployment, Configuration, and Administration Learning Path. This takes you from A to Z on your implementation of Windows Server 2019 from the deployment perspective, configuration, management, security considerations, and administration all up. This is done and built by Oren Thomas himself. If you don't know who Oren Thomas is, he is part of our Cloud Advocate team, but he's also a well-known author for all things Windows Server. He actually orchestrated this whole learning path, built it out from scratch. This has caught a lot of attention. Before this, we didn't really have solid Windows Server Learn modules made available. So excited that this is being launched right before our hybrid event, and the fact that we'll be talking a lot about Windows Server. I know Jeff Woolsey and Ned Pyle have dedicated sessions on Windows Server, so it's awesome that this came out right before a hybrid event. And I wanted to bring visibility to this because this is something that you, our audience, have been asking for a long time, and it's exciting that it's actually being made available. Links to this learning path specifically, again, available on our blog, ITOpsTalk.com, on the latest blog post, and you can go through. And this is completely free. So, it's something where you can do soup to nuts, Windows Server implementation 2019, understand the full-on capabilities, hands-on labs, step-by-step instructionals. Do check it out if you get a chance. Sarah,
Yep.
2 minutes. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
I am Techie Lass on Twitter, and you'll find me blogging on ITOpsTalk.com as well.
And if you want to get a hold of, actually, one other thing, do mention about your stream as well.
Yes, so I do a kind of weekly update as well, talking about Azure news and stuff. Recently, I've been sharing how I do my videos and my podcasts. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube as well, Techie Lass. I am close to 1,000 followers, so if you haven't subscribed, please do.
So please do subscribe to Sarah Lean on YouTube. Also subscribe to ITOps Talk on YouTube as well. We love to see your passion and your inclusion to conversation and everything that's going on in the world of tech. If you want to get a hold of producer Pierre, he can be found on Twitter at Wired Connect. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Twitter at Wireless Life. Sarah, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. I'm excited. I know you're excited. Everybody else, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.